people that get lost in the class because they don't come to class. They come in and they introduce kind of a foreign psychology because we've all gelled as a group, you know, in group psychology. I got a doctorate degree, so I understand psychology. What happens is you become disconnected, okay? And then you get overwhelmed, and then you don't come to class, okay? Because it's just like, I hate this class because I don't know what he's talking about, you know, and I didn't talk to anybody, I didn't read anything, I didn't get any notes, I didn't watch the video, so I'm totally disconnected, okay? So I've just seen it over and over. But if you stay engaged, you contact me, you stay in touch, talk to everybody, you know, do the best you can, you know, that way you'll be interested and you'll get a lot out of it, okay? Are you in sports or anything?
Yeah, it's like baseball.
Okay, cool. So you're under even more pressure because you have a schedule and you need to tell me the schedule. I deal with golfers, you know, rugby players, all those guys. You know, there's really good students that are also athletes. It just takes a little bit more effort to be a good athlete and a good student. But I highly recommend it. All right. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. And don't forget, you need to put the article here at the bottom of this. And I handed out some of these things. You may want to peruse through these and take pictures of an article that you might be interested in, and then give me it back. So I'm saving you some time on finding some of the articles. And if you can pick articles, maybe even go around looking. Maybe you guys can swap these journals around. And then, you know, peruse through them and pick a topic and see if you can find some articles on that topic. Then you can start building your paper, okay? So I'm trying to front load the research stuff. Because you guys haven't written memos. Do you guys do research reports? Have you ever written a research report? Research report? Not a professional one? You know, with a cover page and an abstract and an outline, introduction, you know, the sections with the subheadings, with the conclusion, recommendations, and then, you know, the references, the appendix, you know, with all the charts and graphs and tables. Hello?
Will you show me how to do that?
Yeah, that's what these are right here.
Are we reading these right now? Or are we sharing what we're reading?
Yeah, I'll do that in a second. But if you want to like pass around some of these, these are just examples of research reports that I produced over the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years. Academically, professionally, kind of gives you an idea of how to write a thesis, a research paper, dissertation. You may be asked when you work someplace to basically write up a memo, as a proposal to a research project, and then write the research project, correct? And then what are you going to do after you write the research project? No, you don't hand shit in. In the real world, what do you do with the research report? What? After you're done with the research report, what do you do?
Yeah, what's the quote?
What? After you do the research report, what do you do? After you do the no, you got to get out of your school mentality. Okay, you've been brainwashed for the last 16 years. What do you do after you do the research report? What do you do with the research report after you're done?
Share it?
What?
Share it?
It's not called sharing.
Sell it?
No. You were asked by somebody, a client, or you
Provided.
present it. Do you want to present the research report?
No.
Do you want to present the research report?
Yeah.
Do you want to present the research report
Yes.
to the senior level executives?
Yes.
Yes. Because if you do a good job, what are they going to do?
Hire you?
Hire you or
Buy it?
promote you, and when you get a promotion, what else do you get?
More money?
You get more money,
More responsibility.
more responsibility, more opportunity. Isn't that the goal?
Yeah.
If not, then I'm teaching to the wrong class. Okay?
Just set aside for the opportunity.
If you're not into this stuff, if you're not into, hold on a second. If you're not into this stuff, you shouldn't take the class. Okay? Because I have students that are just like, I want to do multiple choice stuff. It's easy for me. You know, I can. You know, I don't want to work that hard. You know, my professor will be nice to me and give me a C, and that's all I want to graduate. That's not going to work here. Okay, it just don't work. I'm pushing you to be professionals. One semester with me, you're set. Okay, you 100%. You'll be ready to get internships and jobs.
I just want to be your apprentice, I think.
You can if you want to.
Really?
Yeah, if you want to work with me on stuff, I'll bring you in and you can help me.
I remember the first scene
Yeah.
of Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
Where he's like, show me pay stuff for $20,000 and I'll quit my job and work for you right now.
Totally. Somebody offers you a job and a pay raise and stuff like that, you'd be stupid not to take it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so these are all examples. Here's, anybody interested in affordable housing? Apartment building.
I did housing development. Or I
Yeah.
did development.
Yeah, so this is the project we did. My students and I at San Francisco State. Okay, and I actually have the CD. If you brought your computer, you can transfer it over. Or I'll give it to you and you can copy it. Okay. But what we did was we entered, I mean, this is what, urban economics class, so this is all, relevant. And I'll do this presentation in class too. I'll spend like an hour and I'll walk you through all the economics that we did. This is the underwriting package. You asked me what an underwriting package was?
Yeah.
This was the preliminary underwriting package. Okay, this was the preliminary.
And so what does that contain in it?
I'll let you look at it. All the economics, how much is, what do we gotta do? How much is the land gonna cost? How much is it gonna cost to remediate all the toxins? How much is the foundation gonna be in this one? Because there was a subterranean creek that was running underneath this property. So we had to basically get the engineering company in there to basically build a foundational boat and basically drill about 125 pilings into the mud, because it was in Yerba Buena Cove. And we basically built this 150 unit affordable housing community, okay?
How do you determine like if like where the area is?
Where the site was?
Yeah, how do you determine?
The client that we were working with, basically, we went to the client and said, do you have a site? You may want to listen to this. We went to the client, we said, do you have a site that you would like us to underwrite? That you can't afford to hire a consultant to underwrite on your behalf, to see if the project is feasible, is economically feasible. Because this research that we provided them is like $100,000 at least to perform the report and the presentation and all of the architecture and all the civil engineering stuff that we did on this. And this was a team.
A team?
Me and 5 students.
Students?
5 students.
Like graduate students?
No, undergrad. 1 graduate architecture student, MBA. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea. Okay. So these are some of the research reports. What we're also going to do in the class, okay, you're going to do a research report. Okay, so that's one product. Okay. We're also going to we're going to do financial economics, and we're going to value a real estate investment trust. Okay. As a real estate major, do you have to take finance?
Part of the core.
Okay, have you guys all taken the finance classes yet?
Taking.
Taking it now.
Are you? Okay, do you know what a present value is?
Yeah.
So you don't do discounted cash flows and stuff like that? Okay. Yeah, I'll go through it with you. I'll train you again, okay? I'm gonna train you in everything. So these reports, these are all student reports, okay? Do these look nice?
Beautiful.
Yeah, aren't they? Yeah. Do they look like student reports?
No.
No, they don't, because these are professional reports. So I taught my students how to produce professional production reports. And not only did we do is we did evaluations. What is it?
That quote.
What? Oh, yeah.
The land is too valuable to permit poor people to park on it.
Yeah, those were real, we were working with a company called Tenants, Owners, and Development Corporation, TODCO. They were basically established in the 1960s and 70s after the Highway Act was basically pushed through, and they just demolished Yerba Buena Center. They demolished that whole Yerba Buena community, just bulldozed it, all those people and everything, whole community, and put in the Yerba Buena Center. So this organization, which was a community action group, a community political organization, then became a social service organization providing education, healthcare, job training services. And then the community said, well, we need housing, so they started to develop housing. So they flipped their model from political, community-based organization to a affordable housing developer. Now, affordable housing development is the most complex urban economics you will ever do, because you're a developer. You gotta work with the city, you gotta work with agencies, you gotta work with banks, you gotta basically do all the engineering, all of the architecture, all of the soil engineering. You gotta design the product for the need, you gotta find the financing, you gotta build it, you gotta get the people in or off the street, and then you gotta manage it for like 30, 50, maybe 7 years.
Is this just like a set like guideline of stuff? You're like, oh, we start here, and then we have to move here, and then it's all like you.
The formula is the same. The question is, who's the client and what's the market?
That's the only part that changes.
Yep. So there's apartment developments, condo developments, affordable housing developments, commercial developments that are all over the place. But the process is the same. Somebody identified a need, did the economic analysis, found out that the need exceeded, the cost of construction or what it would take to build it. There was an economic return associated with it, and then it was just a matter of convincing everybody, all the stakeholders, to get behind this project and to fund it and to build it and to manage it and do what it was supposed to do. Retail, office, industrial, apartments, storage, affordable housing, condos, apartments, it's all the same thing. The underwriting process is the same. Okay. And that's usually the ultimate goal for most real estate majors, is to go into development. That's where you make the most, that's where you make your money. Brokerage is a great way to do it, too. You can make your money there, too. But investing in real estate is definitely a way to make money, too. So there's plenty of opportunities in real estate. And the beauty of real estate is it's cross-disciplinary. I'm gonna go study real estate. Great, you're gonna be studying everything. You gotta know psychology, sociology, demographics, geology, architecture, engineering. You gotta know finance. You gotta know asset management, technology. Everything is rolled up in it. Real estate's a cross-disciplinary asset class. Okay? All right. So I'm kind of giving you high level, a lot of stuff right now. Did you guys look through the class notes, the primer? Did you get a chance to peruse through that? You're gonna do a lot of reading in this class. I would read everything, as much as you can. Just bring, grab some stuff, take some pictures, look at your phone, read, walk around, read everything, stick a stack of these stuff next to your bed, put yourself to sleep, carry it with you. This is the abstract, okay, and I'm gonna walk you through this pretty quickly. Everybody should read this. Okay, this is basically everything you need to know about real estate in 11 pages. Okay, and I'm gonna walk you through it really quickly. Okay. Anybody want to go do a master's degree in real estate? MBA? Anybody want to go to Cal? Do an MBA at Haas in the finance department studying real estate? That'd be cool. Yeah, because that's where they hire from. All the top companies hire out of Cal and Stanford. And Cal has the like #1, #2 real estate program, both PhD and MBA program in real estate. USC, so in California, #2 on the West Coast. Development and MBA, you can do a MRED, Master's Real Estate Development, and an MBA. You can do an MRED and a JD. Okay, you can do the combination if you want to. Master's in Real Estate Development. Okay, and a JD, which is a law degree. And most of the attorneys go into land use, litigation and land use law, and they end up becoming developers themselves. Same architects do the same thing. They go into architecture and they say, forget it. I'm tired of just getting fees. I'm gonna start building, designing my own products. I'm gonna raise the money, I'm gonna do my own thing. So you can do it that way too. So you can do a PhD in real estate, you can do a JD, and you can do transactions law, contract law. You can represent brokers in their litigations, you can represent, you can do securities law, and the real estate investment trust, and the commercial mortgage-backed security side. You can work in the investment banking and do mergers and acquisitions. You can issue stocks and bonds for publicly traded company. You can design financing strategies for large corporations and large companies. I mean, these are what the top people are doing. Okay? And they set their sights on this stuff, and they know exactly where they're going at an early age so that they can get the grades, so that they can get in the 90th percentile on the LSAT, which is what you need to take for the law degree, and to ace the GMAT, which is what you need for the master's programs. So they're thinking about this, years in advance, because it takes years to prep to do it. I think some of you are actually going to do it. MIT has a really good program. NYU has a really good program. University of Hong Kong has a really good program. Johns Hopkins has a good program. Georgetown. I modeled this class after those programs. Okay, so all the stuff that you're learning is modeled after the Ivy League programs. Okay, in one class, and then you can go off and do whatever you want to do. There are certain certifications. Everybody gets certified in real estate. Getting the license is the #1 thing. You need to get the license as soon as possible. It's going to take you 4 months. So if you start it now, and you call Dwayne Gomer, and you start the process now, it's going to take you 4 months to get your license. So basically, you'll be employed in an internship running for a developer or an investment broker or a leasing broker for the summer. And if you find a deal, if you actually bird dog, which is what it's called, you find a deal, you can make up to maybe $100,000 in commissions as an intern. That happened to one of my students. He went out, he's totally aggressive, he's combing the neighborhood, talking to everybody, found a deal, brought it in, they closed it, they split the commission with him, he made $100,000 in a summer.
After he got this license?
He didn't even have the license. Oh. But do you think he got his license after that?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, he did. Yeah, they come in on a referral. Okay. I mean, he still had to pay, he got a 1099 check. Still had to pay all the taxes and stuff like that, so he probably walked away with 50 grand, but that's still pretty good, net of taxes. Okay. So the Counselors of Real Estate, the CRE. Okay, that's very prestigious. It's out of Chicago. It's underneath the National Association of Realtors. There's the National Association of Realtors, California Association of Realtors, and then there's local board of realtors. I belong to the San Francisco Association of Realtors. Okay, and it's really expensive. All of these organizations are really hard to get into in most cases. There might be an exam, or you have to have experience or portfolio. You got to show your expertise, and then you got to pay thousands of dollars, per year to maintain your certification and your membership in these organizations. But if you have these credentials and these certifications, right off the bat, people know you're an expert. Okay. And then you can get hired and, charge them fees as a consultant, or like I do, try to cut yourself in on the transaction or become part of the principals within the organization and get hired, as a takeout strategy and go work for them.
How do you go about that?
They ask you.
They just ask.
Yep. They go, well, we want you, you did such a great job on that, we want you to come over. Okay, would you do it? And then you have to kind of weigh,
And it's worth it.
Yeah, in most cases it is. Yeah, because I made most of my money when I did all this stuff, and then I got hired by a real estate investment trust to build their research department. They never had one. They said, build a research department and produce all of these reports for our strategy and tactics and operations. Would you come do that for us? It's like, how much are you gonna pay me? It's like, yes, I'll do it. And we'll give you stock options and we'll give you bonuses. Okay. So the answer in most cases is always yes. Okay. Unless it's a career, unless the company doesn't have a good reputation and you don't trust the principals. Then you just you wanna save yourself. Okay. And I'll talk about risks in the businesses later. The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, the oldest valuation organization in the world. They've been around like 150 something years. They were basically an arm of the royal family in England. And since the royal family in England owned all of the land in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, England, Scotland, Ireland, they needed professionals that could go around and assess the value and to be able to assess the revenue that was being generated from the land and collect the taxes, okay? From the people who are either renting the land or generating revenue from the land. So the RICS, the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor, which I'm a fellow of, is the oldest and most prestigious global valuation organization, okay? The Appraisal Institute issues the MAI designation, which is to become a professional appraiser, okay? So I had a friend of mine, she was in construction management, she hated it, she was making good money, you know, managing projects, you know, residential homes that were being flipped. And she said, I want to do valuation work, I want to become a consultant. And I said, well, what have you been doing? Well, I've been doing appraisal work at a residential company, but I want to be a commercial appraiser. Okay, I want to do commercial buildings. I said, I got a buddy of mine who works at Duff & Phelps, he runs their valuation group. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go talk to him. And actually one of my students from San Jose State, I got him a job over there too, like years ago. Said, I'm gonna go visit these guys. Went and visited those guys. I said, hey, I got somebody that wants to do commercial valuation. She's got project management experience on the residential side, and she's got some valuation experience on the residential side. They interviewed her, they hired her. She's gonna now get her MAI designation, and she's gonna get her state of California general license, which allows her to be licensed by the state. She's going to get her MAI designation, and she'll probably go on and get a CRE or a RICS within the next 20 years, 10 to 20 years. So she'll be one of the top people at some point in time. The Certified Commercial Investment Member, the CCIM, I also have that. That took me about 3 years to get. It takes a long time, and you have to take exams after every course, and then you take a comprehensive exam. Okay. The top investment brokers, the people who broker investments in real estate, have the CCIM designation. Okay. The Institute of Real Estate Management, if you're that in BOMA, also has certifications for property asset portfolio managers. For the Institute of Real Estate Management, it's the CPM, or the Certified Property Manager. What is it for the BOMA? What's the certification for BOMA? Can you look that up?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're on your computers, you should be like researching, going to these websites. Be interactive in this class, use the technology, either take notes or use the technology. You know, try to retain this information. I know you guys are thinking about beer and stuff like that, but just try to stay focused for a couple hours. Urban Land Institute. Okay, this is the #1 global organization that represents the development community, which is global. I mean, you go to London, you go to Barcelona, you go to Madrid, you go to Johannesburg, you go to Berlin, you go to Frankfurt, you go anywhere in the world. These central business districts, these cities are developed in public-private partnerships with developers. And the Urban Land Institute is the organization that represents the development community. All the participants and stakeholders in the development process belong to the Urban Land Institute. And Urban Land Institute does have a group called the Young Leaders. Young Leaders. It's the best segment of the organization. If you were smart, you'd become a student member of ULI, which is really cheap, and then go to their networking events and go to the Young Leader events. These are some of the top, real estate professionals in their 30s and 40s. Amazing. And they have great events, and everybody networks, and it's really fun. And there's usually beer and cocktails there, so it's fun. But it's an amazing organization. And now these organizations too, real estate's moving into energy. So if you want me to talk about sustainability, solar, geothermal, biogas, community choice aggregation, power plants, solar, wind, geothermal, if you want me to talk about that, because it's basically real estate. Okay, and I've been working in that space for 10 years. USC, the Lusk Center, we already talked about that. ULI has courses that you can take on Excel modeling around the development process. The Ross program at USC, it's a 2-week boot camp around Thanksgiving. It's like $5,000, and they'll take you through their development boot camp in 2 weeks. It's pretty amazing. ULI has courses too, which is awesome. If you're gonna be a property accountant, CFO, maybe a chief investment officer, if you're gonna be running the finances for some of these public or private companies, or maybe doing fund accounting, you're probably gonna need your, be a certified public accountant, licensed under the state of California, okay? But huge opportunities on that side. If you wanna do real estate securities, commercial mortgage-backed securities, the debt side, or REIT securities, valuation work, you need your chartered financial analyst certification. That's a guaranteed job producer, and those guys make a lot of money. They're highly successful. It's a 3-year program. It's a really hard exam, but it's just like the CPA. You get it, you're done. Okay, go ahead.
Was there a CPA that you know that had a really nice like ladder that he climbed up?
Yeah, when I worked at BRE Properties in San Francisco, which is now Essex Property Trust, he was the controller, and then he became the CFO, and then he became the COO. And then he tried to become the president, but that didn't work. So he ended up leaving and going to another company and becoming the president. Yeah. Yep. So the CFOs can, you can go through the accounting side, to get to the presidency or the CEO position, or you can go through the operations side. And usually they go through property management or acquisitions, development, and then they become the acquisitions officer, and then the chief investment officer. And then sometimes they'll go on and become the president and the CEO of the company. And they may spin out and do their own development company, or they may spin out and do their own development and property management or asset management company. And if they do a good job, what they usually do is they manage and build their own, let's say, apartment communities. They get to a certain size, and then a real estate investment trust comes knocking on their door and says, we want to buy the whole thing. We want to buy your assets, and we want to buy you and your company in exchange for cash and stock in the company. So now all of a sudden you've liquefied all of your worth. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I've seen people do it a lot. Okay, if you like the security side of the business and you want to manage REIT portfolios and sell the securities, you're going to need a Series 7 license. Okay. Let's look at page 2. If you become a broker, okay, a real estate agent, I highly recommend becoming an agent. Get your license, and then get your broker's license as soon as possible. Once you get the broker's license,
is the broker's license like really needed, or like what is it actually?
Okay, you got to become an agent.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to have a certain work experience now.
Yeah.
You got to take all 5 classes: practice, principles,
Yeah.
Legal aspects, finance, appraisal. You got to take all the 5 classes.
Yeah.
You have to have the experience.
So many.
It's really hard to go straight to the brokers now. Most people take the agency license, which is like a 4-hour exam, 75 questions. And then when you get the experience and you have all the courses, you go for the brokers. 5 courses, 2 years experience. You gotta get, I think, 70 on the exam, 150 questions, 8-hour exam. Okay. I'm a broker too.
Oh yeah, because I just finished the courses for my sales license.
I'm a broker too. Okay. Huh?
I just finished the courses for my salesperson
Perfect.
license, but I was told like you don't really need the broker's license.
That's
Is
bullshit.
Okay. That's what
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I don't want to bleep, I'm gonna have to bleep
Well,
myself.
that's how I know
Say
it's
it
like,
more.
oh, that's like for sure not
Bullshit.
true. Yeah, it's bullshit. Like,
Yeah, no,
that's
they're
how I
gonna,
know.
they're gonna tell you
FX
that because when you stay an agent, your splits are gonna be less.
Yeah.
So the broker makes more money.
Yeah.
Right?
why
When
not?
you're a broker, you're a principal. You're a principal. You can be on your own. You can be a broker associate for another brokerage company. You could have your own. You can have your individual broker here. I can do my deals over here under my brokerage. I can be a broker associate over here under that brokerage firm if they let me do it. Oh, I can establish a corporate broker's license and run my property management company under that in the LLC. I could also do another corporate broker's license, another corporate broker's license, and run my mortgage company under that, I could create my own full-service real estate company with my broker's license. And it's the only license I know that's that flexible, that allows you to create other types of entities affiliated with your initial broker's license. So it's, and because you're a principal, as opposed to an agent, when you call somebody, they have to call you back. Because they totally respect you, because you're a broker.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you have these other designations and stuff like that, people call you back, and they end up calling you. Okay, so it's reputation and stuff. And then when you go to work for a broker, you're gonna do splits, okay? The broker's gonna get, maybe 50% of your commission, you get the other 50%, okay? You're gonna be an independent contractor, you're not gonna be an employee for the broker, so you're gonna have to have your own, limited liability corporation. Does everybody know about corporate structures? Okay, C corps, as opposed to LLCs, LLPs. You're gonna have an LLP, limited liability professional company, because you're a CPA and attorneys. LLCs are basically conduits. What they do is they immunize yourself, they create a veil. So if you ever get sued, they end up suing the LLC and not suing you. So they end up taking any assets that are in the LLC. They can't attach and go after your personal assets. Okay? So if you're really dumb, you don't have an LLC, you don't have any errors and omissions insurance, you get sued, they go after you,
Everything.
your wife, your house, everything you own, and they try to steal your stuff. Okay? So the LLC is important, but the splits are important to understand. And if you give referral fees, okay, somebody brings you a deal, you do the deal, you usually have to pay them a referral fee. And if you have a license or a broker's license, and you bring somebody a deal, particularly a broker's license, they can just write you a check, and you file you get a 1099, and you basically pay your taxes the way, however you want to do it. Okay, and so there's a lot of flexibility here. On the residential side of the business, it's changed. When I got into residential, we were the commercial group, okay, in 2005. 2003, 4, 5, yeah, 2003, 4, and 5, we created a commercial group, me and my dad, and we went around to the residential brokerage houses, Remax, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, and we said, hey, we'll be your commercial group, okay? Either under your company, or we'll be a separate entity to basically be able to take the commercial referrals, and we'll close the commercial transactions and then pay your agents a referral fee. So we were trying to introduce the commercial expertise within a residential operation. Most of the residential houses now all have commercial divisions, but they didn't have that before. So why were we doing that? Because what we found out was residential agents would come across a commercial deal, and commercial is completely different than residential in underwriting, valuation, marketing, clients. The language is totally different. And what they would do is they would try to do the deal themselves, and they would blow it. And then, once they were, almost getting sued, or the client was complaining, they would come to us and say, hey, would you take this commercial transaction and pay us a commercial, referral fee, okay? And we would say, how long have you been talking to the client, and how long have you had the listing with the client? And we turned down every single one of them, because we didn't know what the agent was saying to the client. Maybe there was non-disclosures on defects within the property. We didn't know what they did, and we were basically taking their liability. So we would turn those down and say, if you ever got a deal, don't take it, we'll give you a referral fee, it'll be totally clean, but don't touch the transaction. Don't contaminate it, okay? All right, real estate economics, what drives demand for real estate? That's the number one factor. First there's demand, and then supply comes, okay? So you have to have the demand first. What are the measures of demand, okay? Well, we look at demographic and economic factors. Jobs is the number one.
Unemployment.
Employment. Okay, number of jobs. Okay, number of jobs created. Population growth, household growth, population density, household income, Those are all driving factors, all demand factors that I would use, that you will use when you're building your models, okay? And in the pre-test, I ask you, what are the factors that you would use if you were gonna build a regression model? What would be the factors that you would use to forecast occupancy rates, returns, rents?
And you said population growth.
Yeah, so if I'm trying to forecast, like say, home prices, or I'm trying to forecast apartment rents and apartment prices, that's my dependent variable. So I'm gonna build a regression model, forecast model. So what are the factors that drive valuations, prices, up and down? Well, the first factor is gonna be jobs. Okay, job density, for one, number of jobs concentrated in one area, but also number of jobs that are created and percentage change in jobs, job growth.
And
The
then
number one,
it's
number
the
one
same with
factor.
population and then population increase.
It was the same thing, yeah, so population, you should be writing all this stuff down because it's on your pretest. Population, population density, change in population, and growth, population growth. So you could have employment, and then you have the three factors, right? Total employment, change in employment, percentage change. Population, total population, population density, change in population, percentage change in population. And then there's other factors. Those are the demand factors. Usually we do macroeconomic factors first, and then we do market factors, and then we do supply. So under market factors, we would be looking at net absorption. Okay, net absorption. Did you guys look up net absorption?
I was gonna say, oh boy,
Did you look it up?
right now.
Okay, let's say we're in 2000, what? 2018 and 2019. Right? All right. What we have is inventory. So this is the total size of the market by space, okay, or units when you're talking about apartments. So it's total inventory. Okay. Inventory is also called base inventory. And it's also called the stock. So those are all interchangeable terminologies for basically the size of the market, okay, by square footage or number of units. So you're talking about a market. The metro area is a market, but then I can drill into counties, I can drill into cities, I can drill into submarkets, I can drill into neighborhoods, and then I can drill into census blocks, and down even into census tracts. Okay? And if you look through this book, right here, you should probably peruse through this book. Okay, this is a really good book. This is all the technology around thematic mapping and how to use big data applications to do all the visualizations. And you'll see in a lot of the products that I've given you, there's a lot of maps in there that basically communicates population densities. So if this is population density right here, you know, where the dark is, do I want to invest there or in the white spaces? Do I want to invest where there's high population and employment density, or where there's low population density? High or low?
High.
High, got it, so it tells you where to invest, okay, based on underlying factors. Okay, so I would look through this. I have this on reserve. I got the books on reserve, and I have some extra copies if you guys wanna take them and take pictures and stuff like that.
Is there ever opportunity for like, just a question, but like, is there ever opportunity for you to grow, to invest in spaces with low population density? Is that ever like an idea for certain times?
You would only invest in low population density or low population growth areas to take advantage of low land costs and construction costs in anticipation of high population growth and high density.
And then
So
what
you're an
kind of-
opportunistic investor. You're saying, oh, look,
Future.
Tracy is now booming. It's in the path, or Livermore, or Stockton, or you can go further out to Bakersfield or something, and say that the progression of population and employment growth is gonna continue on that path over time. Why don't I buy and build now, or at least buy the land now, bank it in anticipation of the progression of that growth, and at some point in time, the land values are gonna get so high, and the rents are gonna get so high, and the prices are gonna get so high, that it's gonna totally make sense for me to build a product. Retail center, or office building, or, you know, industrial, or apartments, or housing, whatever it is.
Just depends on whatever.
Yeah, so, but what you wanna do is you wanna be buying, where's that book?
This one?
Show me that graphic. Yeah, what you wanna do, so let's say this is a population density or population growth thematic map, is what it's called. What you're doing is you're not gonna be investing here in the middle. You're gonna be investing in the white spaces on the
Around the
fringe of the dark spaces. Because that's the area of progression in where the growth is going, unless that land is designated as parkland or some kind of public,
Yeah.
watershed or something, you ain't building there.
Is that probably why there's that little,
Yeah, it could be.
or else it would have been capitalized on?
You would have seen it already. Yeah. All right, so let's keep this, because this is really important. I'm now starting to get into the market research and the market analytics here. So you have the inventory, let's just say it's, I don't know, how big is San Francisco's office market? Do you guys know? You guys printed out the report, what does the inventory say?
What was your question? Sorry.
Yeah, how big is the San Francisco office market? What's the size by square footage of the total market? You can go up online, if you go up to CB Richard Ellis, I'm sorry, what's your name? Devin, go up to type in CB Richard Ellis in Google, and then go to the CB Richard Ellis website, go up to the research tab, and then we help him, yeah, perfect. So how big is the market? There's a table in the report that gives you, yeah, there's like a table in there.
There's a lot of tables.
Yeah, there's that one right there.
This one?
Yeah, doesn't it tell you how big the market is?
Oh, I printed this.
Is there a total square footage? It's gotta be what, like 55 million or something crazy like that.
82?
What? Is it 82 million?
Maybe.
Do you guys have it? Cause that was,
Rentable area?
Net
was-
rentable area?
I was looking for office. Yeah, it's 50, the total office market is 82 million.
Have the,
So let's say it's 83 million.
what are all these other things?
This is
Just a collection of them?
yeah, so these are like all the districts.
83 million. Okay, is the San Francisco office market. Do you guys have a calculator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys bring your calculators?
Always bring my handy dandy.
You guys have calculators? You should start
This
pulling
book.
out. Every time you come to class, pull out your calculator. Who needs a calculator? Okay. You can always use your phone,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Alright. You can use your phone. Anybody else? Calculator, you gonna use your phone? Okay, awesome. Okay, you can use your phone, you can use Excel, you can use whatever. Alright, so let's go through the mathematics here. Some of you may want to go on and become a market research person at JLL or something like that, or Cushman, or Marcus and Millichap. You may want to go on and go in the research department, go over into investment brokerage, development, mortgage, maybe stay in the research department, become, the chief economist or the managing director of research, maybe vice president, executive vice president.
83 million was for 2019. I don't know if that matters.
No, I'm just gonna show an example.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say it was 83 million was the base inventory, the stock, 83 million per square foot. By square
Wait,
feet.
what was 83?
This is, if you take all the all these buildings in San Francisco,
That's what you get.
right? Salesforce Tower is like 1 million square feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the size of every building in San Francisco and add it up, it adds up to 83 million.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the size of San Francisco, just San Francisco, not the Bay Area, just San Francisco's. San Francisco's office market base inventory or stock is $83 million. Go pull down the CB report for New York City and tell me what the base inventory for New York City is. What do you think? Anybody want to make a guess? Yeah, it's probably like 800 million.
I was gonna say, at
Yeah.
least 150.
It's massive. It's probably like 10 times San Francisco. Okay, but it kind of gives you an idea of how big these markets are. Okay, so you guys need to watch this. Okay, so let's say that there was 1 million square feet that was built between 2018 or added to the inventory, 1 million square feet. How much inventory do we have in 2019? 84 million. Got it.
Hell yeah, bro.
So we have new construction. So we had new construction of $1 million, or a million square feet. Okay. Do you think that there's any buildings that are being permitted right now to be built next year? Yeah. So can we forecast what 2020 would be? If we know it's permitted, under construction,
Can you know
and
where you
close to
wanna put your
completion?
business?
Could I forecast what the base inventory is gonna be? Yeah. So I look at the permits that have been pulled. In San Francisco, when you pull a permit for an office building, between the time it takes to pull the permit and build the building could be 5 years. Salesforce Tower was like, I don't know, almost 10. Okay, for that size of project.
Would it be Manhattan? Manhattan?
Yeah.
That'd be
Did
the-
you find it?
Yeah.
How big it was?
It's
Did you guys find it? You guys need to be on your computers and doing the research. Okay. Not waiting for me to give you the answers or waiting for somebody else to. You need to be engaged in the research process. Your generation is extremely powerful. You have basically supercomputers in your pockets. You have laptops. You have handhelds. There's no reason why you can't get the answers within basically 2 minutes now. No reason. Different generation, right? I can get answers like that. Okay, so 84.
89. Think it-
What?
89 million.
Oh, that's just Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
You want the whole island. So let's just go. Let's keep going on these calculations because this is really important. Okay. Now, what is the vacancy rate right now
For that?
for San Francisco? I know it off the top
Oh,
of my head.
3.7%.
4%?
Yeah, basically 4%.
Is that right?
It says vacancy rate 3.7.
Are you guys? Can you check these numbers because it sounds too low?
New York says 7.7.
I have 5.6%.
That sounds
from
about right.
JLL.
That sounds. It says right here.
No, maybe I was in the wrong spot.
Yeah, you're looking total vacancy. Oh, shoot. You know what? I don't use here another terminology. You guys got to be writing all this stuff down. This is actual vacated space, empty space. Okay.
Oh.
The availability rate is people could actually still be in the space, but the space is being marketed. So these guys are getting ready to leave. So the space is being marketed as available. Okay. The vacant is just a vacant space. I don't look at vacant space. I look at available space
Available.
as a true indication. And what is it? 9.5%. So basically the
Oh, so that's what that was all the ones that are actually empty. That we were looking at was like all the future.
Future?
Yeah, like people who are going to be leaving soon.
So this is the availability rate. This is the amount of space that's actually vacant and being marketed.
And those, even though there's people still there, they're
Yeah, but they're leaving soon.
yeah.
But the space is actually being marketed as available to.
So that number that I looked at, that was what was actually vacant.
Yeah, that was 3.7.
Okay.
And then the availability rate is 9.5. In commercial real estate, anything under 10% means that the market is beyond its structural, which means that rents are being pushed up. Okay, so there's a natural vacancy rate and a natural occupancy rate in commercial. Okay? Stick with me, okay? 90% occupancy, 10% vacancy. Write that down. Structural vacancy rate. Structural vacancy rate,
So that's the rate it should be,
yeah,
below that.
it's like the, have you ever heard of the natural rate of unemployment, NARU? It basically states that if the unemployment rate falls below 5%, which was the natural rate of unemployment for decades, if it falls below 5%, the unemployment rate is below its natural rate, which means that wages are going up above the inflation rate. And you want to write that down. So if occupancy rates are above the structural occupancy rate, or if vacancy rates are below the structural vacancy rate, then rents will be growing above the local inflation rate.
And
That's the definition.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So every market has a structural vacancy rate and a structural occupancy rate, okay? And what you need to remember is you have the vacancy rate. Vacancy rate, right, minus 1 equals occupancy rate. Occupancy rate minus 1 equals vacancy rate. You guys need to memorize all this stuff. Because if you're gonna be in real estate, we're talking about occupancy and vacancy rates and net absorption, base inventory, new construction permits, starts, we're talking net absorption, all of that stuff. These are all the market metrics that we talk about. And I'll go over this, 100 times. I know this is the first time that you're hearing about it. Okay, so these are interchangeable. So each market has a structural vacancy rate and occupancy rate. It's like a natural rate. Okay, yeah.
So you said, I just want to clarify. So you
Yeah.
said when unemployment rate falls below 5%.
Yeah, this is just an analogy.
Okay. Okay.
So it's called NARU.
Okay.
Okay, and it's the non-accelerating rate of unemployment. Non-accelerating NARU, non-accelerating rate of unemployment, something like that. Which basically states if unemployment rates drop below, the natural rate is 5%, which is now 4%. Where's the unemployment rate today? Like 3.5? So under the theory basically states that the natural rate is 4%, but we're at 3.5. Wages should be growing above the local inflation rate, which they are. I think that the rate of wage growth right now is like 3.5, the inflation rate's around 2. So because the unemployment rate's so low, it's pushing up wages because there's a scarcity in labor. It's the same thing in real estate. So
And the rent rises in that during that case too, you said?
yeah, so if the vacancy rate, here's your structural vacancy rate. And in commercial, the benchmark structural vacancy rate for commercial properties is 10%. Okay? And obviously you can't go past 0 because there's no such thing as negative vacancy rate. Right? You can go to 0, theoretically, but there's always going to be some space that's available, and that's going to be your frictional. And when you reach frictional, like 1% or 2%, rents are going to go through the frickin' roof, like they did in 2000, 1999, 98, 2006 and 7. We saw rent spikes, and then we saw rent spikes again in 2015, 16, and 17. Okay, because there was so much job growth. And the vacancy rates in a lot of these markets, they got as high as 20%. Rents were falling. And then as the jobs came in and the net absorption absorbed all that space, and the market started to boom, particularly in tech, it drove the vacancy rates to what, 3.7, but the availability rate is 9.5, 3.7. Since it's below, since the availability rate and the vacancy rate is below the structural, you're getting rent growth well above the inflation rate. Okay. Now the other is you flip it, occupancy rates. Okay, because you gotta be able to talk both, all right? Because you're gonna talk to one person and they're gonna be talking vacancy rates. If you're talking to another person, they're talking occupancy rates. What's an occupancy rate, what's a vacancy rate? I don't know, you gotta know. Because one person's talking vacancy, the other's talking occupancy. So the occupancy rate is the opposite. Right? So this is what? 90% occupancy. And the occupancy rates in San Francisco got as high as, or as low as 80% at one point. Okay. What are occupancy rates and vacancy rates? Well, probably,
Vacancy rates in vacancy rates?
Yeah, what?
I thought they were the same. Basically,
no, they're different.
out of 100, you subtract one and you get the other. No?
So I got my inventory, right?
Yeah.
83,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So what's 83,000 times, what do we say, let's just say 10%, so that's what? 8,000, 800, yeah, 8 million, yeah, 300,000. 1, 2, 3. So this is gonna be occupied space,
Mm-hmm.
right, in square feet, right?
Yeah.
Divided by the 83 million. And my occupancy rate is going to be 10%, or 90%, right? Oops, no, vacancy rate. Yeah, this is the vacancy rate.
So it's based on our divided by
And what's that, 10%? Right? What?
I thought you were asking
Yeah.
70%.
Yes, it's.
No, I'm gonna do that in a second.
Okay.
So that's the 10%, that's your,
And what is that percentage that you're using? That's the vacancy available?
10% of 80.
so this is the vacant space or the available space,
Yeah.
right, which is the 10%.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
So I just take the amount of space that's available divided by the inventory is gonna give me my total available in my vacant space.
The percentage at least?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's gonna be your availability or your vacant space. So this may not go up, but if this goes up, your vacancy rates are gonna go up, and your rents are gonna go down,
Okay, so.
okay?
Yeah, but, yeah.
Now let's do occupancy rate. So the inventory doesn't change.
83 million.
What's 90% of 83 million square feet?
Whatever that is, minus 8.
74 million,
What is it?
74,700,000.
This is square feet. And this is gonna be occupied,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you gotta be really comfortable in being able to switch the two, okay? All right. Does this all make sense? Okay, this is really critical, because when you read these research reports, all those statistics are in there, okay? Now we're doing some real estate economics here, okay? Any other questions? Okay. So the next thing is, we gotta go back to here. Okay, let's go back here. So we said that the base inventory was 83 million here, right?
Yeah.
And it became 84 million here because of new construction, new addition to the base. Usually new construction will drive up the vacancy rate and drive down the occupancy rate. But let's say that this space is already occupied, because Salesforce already signed the lease. right? So even though you're getting more inventory, it doesn't really affect it. It's gonna actually show positive net absorption. So we got right here, here's our 2018 occupied space. Got it. And the occupied is what? 74,700,000 square feet. Everybody follow?
Yeah.
And then we got 1,000,000 square feet of new construction. Occupancy was 90%. Let's say that the occupancy rate went to 95%. We had like a surge of demand. Okay, so what's 95% of 84 million? You gotta get your calculator out and start calculating this. I'm trying to turn you into market research analysts, so you can go talk to Heather Belfour, a JLL in San Jose, or Robert Sammons in San Francisco, or Colin, Yagamichi at CBRE in San Francisco, and say, Larry Souza, I took his class last semester. Do you have any internships?
It's 79,800,000.
79 million.
79,800,000.
79,800,000. So this is going to be the occupied space for 2019, right?
Yes.
So, do something like that. I want to subtract this from this. So I'm doing a percentage, a change, right?
Yeah.
So this becomes the negative, add it to that. What's the difference? What's 79,800,000 minus 74,700,000? This is key, you all should be doing the calculation.
5,100,000.
How much?
5,100,000.
How much?
5,100,000.
Square feet.
Net absorbed. Huh.
5,100,000 square feet of net absorption. So net absorption, if it's positive, basically means that you're taking down more space than last year.
Which is
And
good.
that's bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. The problem is when let's say the occupancy rate didn't go to 95%.
Wait, doesn't that mean rents go up?
Yeah,
You're taking down?
totally.
So it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, for
Yeah,
What
if you have
perspective I
positive
was
net
thinking.
absorption, usually it means that there's more demand for space than there is supply of space.
Okay.
You're eating into the supply, which means there's less supply, which means prices are gonna go up.
I was thinking that in my case.
Yeah, and usually when you add new construction to the inventory, it also pulls up the prices and the rents, because the space that's coming online is newer product.
Yeah.
There's no physical deterioration, and there's no functional obsolescence. And you should write that terminology down too. Physical deterioration and functional obsolescence. So you got Salesforce Tower that came online, right? Salesforce Tower, 1,000,000 square feet, 3-month mission. Everybody knows Salesforce Tower?
Yeah, the 1,000,000 square feet.
Yeah, where Salesforce is, right there, the Transbay Terminal. Do you guys know where the Bank of America building is, or the Transamerica building?
No.
No, you've never heard of the Bank of America building?
Is it smaller?
55 stories, where Bank of America had its headquarters, 1968. Basically 750,000, almost to 850,000 square feet, 1968.
No. And that's
Okay.
crazy.
2019, 1968. Which building has more physical deterioration? 1968, because it's been around a lot longer. Which one has more functional obsolescence? Salesforce Tower or the B of A building? More functional obsolescence. Which one do you think has the most high-tech steel, glass,
Oh,
HVAC,
Bank of America.
Yeah.
Bank of America, 1968, or Salesforce Tower.
Bank of America.
Which one has the least functional obsolescence?
Bank of America.
For sure.
The
Oh,
least
Oh,
functional
Salesforce.
obsolescence. Salesforce Tower. Salesforce Tower is used the state-of-the-art steel and glass and cement. Their floor plates, floor plans, have like almost no supporting beams in it. There's no, write this down, load factor in it. Load factor, the load. If you look at buildings that were built in 1940 through basically 1980, 1970, 1940 to 1970, the state-of-the-art technology in steel and concrete and glass, the quality was significantly less than the new material in material science. So they have their pre-stressed concrete and the state-of-the-art steel and glass in Salesforce Tower allows them to have more of their supports for the building around the perimeter of the building, the exterior of the building, as opposed to loads and beams inside the building. So there's more floor plate, there's more rentable space in the building. So the functional obsolescence for Salesforce Tower is extremely low. The functional obsolescence for Bank of America building is extremely high. Which one is going to command the highest rents? Salesforce Tower or the B&A building?
Salesforce Tower.
Exactly. Better location, state-of-the-art, sustainability, LEED, platinum, certification. Basically, it's the state-of-the-art. It's the state-of-the-art building. Okay, yes.
Is that the building where they have the lady dancing on top of it?
Do they have a lady dancing on top of it?
I think.
It's right on Fremont. It's not Fremont. It's
It's by
First.
Beale Street, right?
First
Yeah,
and Mission.
yeah.
Okay, First Street, Mission Street.
Yeah, by the Embarcadero.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
not far from them.
Embarcadero is the Embarcadero Center.
Yeah, she's way.
Yeah, this is right on Mission. Look it up. Look it
Yeah,
up.
I've been there. It's the lady dancing on top of it.
They have a lady dancing on top of it?
It's this. It's like they're known for it.
Which one? Oh, is that it? Yeah, that's Salesforce
Yeah.
Tower.
Yeah, no, it's known for that. Like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They put that up.
Oh, the shadow.
If you get a chance, go look at the building.
My shadow character. Yeah.
Go look at the building.
Is that one of your favorite buildings?
It's the state-of-the-art building.
Stay there.
Yeah, there's other buildings. So let's get back to this example.
Okay, okay.
So we know how to calculate vacancy and occupancy rates, we know how to calculate absorption. Let's do it in the opposite direction. So it was 90% occupied here. This was 95%.
Yep.
This was 90.
Yep.
What if the occupancy rate dropped to 80%?
In 2019?
Yep.
Then that'd be bad.
Yep.
For
So what if the occupancy, what would be the occupied space? Do the mathematics, I need you to do the calculations, because you're not gonna learn it if you don't. What is it?
67,200,000.
67,200,000. Okay. So we went into a recession, 2021 through 23. The occupancy rate fell. Everybody asked me, when's the next recession, Larry? 2020 to 2023. I've been saying it for 5 years. Okay. So it goes from 95% occupancy to 80%, no changes in the inventory. The occupied space goes from 79,800,000 to 67,200,000. What's the difference between the two?
was it 84 million?
So what's our net absorption?
From 2018 to
Oh.
2023,
I think it is.
7 million thousand here.
So minus 7,500,000.
100.
Because we missed that.
Okay, everybody needs to, this is positive net absorption,
What I'm saying?
So that's how we got some.
positive net absorption, this is negative.
Yes. Basically.
This is negative net absorption. if you're getting negative net absorption and occupancy rates are falling,
You're losing money,
what's happening to vacancy rates?
going up.
They're going up, exactly. And what's happening to rental rates? When you get
Going down.
negative net absorption and falling occupancy rates, what happens to rents? They start to go, down, and if rents go down, what happens to values and prices?
Ugly.
They go down too. Okay. Alright, so you understand this?
So they're
This is basically the market metrics.
opposite.
Okay. So you need to memorize that stuff because I'm gonna be talking in this language. And you're gonna be doing research for the 5 major asset classes, okay, or property sectors. You've already done, you're gonna do office, industrial, retail, and apartments. You're gonna print out the national office reports. I don't care if you get it from JLL or Cushman or CV, just use one of the top 3. Get their national office report, and then you could do San Jose, you could do Oakland, you could do San Francisco, I don't care. Pick a local market, and then you're gonna write the memo around that. Okay? And I gave you some examples of the market memos.
So the one that you're talking about right now, that's of the reports that
Yeah.
that we already looked
Yeah.
at.
So you've already gotten the national,
Okay, and the San Francisco.
and you got the San Francisco.
So now make memos out of those.
So you're gonna make one memo out of that one.
Just
And-
pick whichever one I want.
I'm gonna go through the memo structure for you. I'm kinda giving you a primer class tonight. And then I'm gonna walk you through like how to do the memos and stuff like that. But the first memo is the office memo, and then do you have the packet of memos that I handed out tonight? So what I did was I picked some of the best memos. I think they're pretty old. I think they're 2016, 17, or 18, so they need to be updated. But those are how the memo should look. Is everybody clear? I know you're not clear on, but that's the product you're gonna produce, and I'm gonna walk you through how to produce that product. I'm gonna walk you through how to do the market research. You're gonna come up with a forecast on where you think office prices are gonna go.
That's
So
cool.
people will pay you just to analyze other
Yeah.
people's data? Like, that's what this memo essentially is.
I can do it myself, or I can use other people's data, but I need to cite it.
And then you can hand them in like, hey, I think we should do
Yeah, I'm
this-
writing a
this.
research report. I'm doing 2 research reports right now. If anybody's interested in working with me, you can work with me on this project. But I'm doing 2 research projects for 2 clients.
On what?
We're doing, one is life science, so lab space. Because there's a lot of, we're not doing medical office space, we're doing lab space. So there's a real estate property sector called life science, okay? And basically, people and companies will go rent laboratory space to do their research, to then take that research and get it into clinical trials and try to get it bought by the pharmaceutical companies or other types of companies to then commercialize into drugs or
So it's
something.
like the new office fab where they just rent office
Yeah, it's
space.
like a WeWorks for life
You
science.
can just
for
add
lab
that,
space.
you can do that to any,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
totally.
I was thinking about that, I was like, would that work in
Yeah.
anything else? And
So
you
I'm
said
engaged to basically to go find all the secondary research, okay? Write a research report around the life science space. And then what I'll probably do is I'll create some demand metrics to calculate net absorption and new construction and calculate the occupancy rates and vacancy rates and try to predict where rents are gonna go and valuations. Will go to show that the economics around life science space, particularly in the Bay Area, is a product type that a developer would want to enter into or a real estate company would want to enter into. So I'm basically doing the research behind the business plan or the marketing plan, whatever you wanna call it. So there's life science space. Then the other one that I'm doing is data centers. Okay, do you guys know what data centers are? That's another hot property sector. You've ever heard of Google,
Their data center.
Yahoo, Salesforce, Intel, Cisco, all those companies, Microsoft? Yeah, those companies have web and enterprise applications, ERP, CRMs, does this make any sense to you? Enterprise resource management systems, customer relationship management systems, web applications that they provide their corporate clients, hosting applications in the cloud that they can basically run their enterprise through the cloud off the internet. Well, when you have those workloads, when a client wants to throw all that data up into the cloud to do all the database research and analysis to create the products and research reports, those workloads, those computations have to be done somewhere. It's not being done on site at the company anymore. It's up in the cloud. Well, where is the cloud? What is the cloud?
Fourth dimension.
The cloud is basically designated data centers with racks and racks of computational hardware that are basically just crunching all of the numbers around the workloads that are being conducted in the cloud. So they're actual physical data centers, 25 to 50,000 square feet. Digital Realty is the #1 data center REIT. I highly recommend looking into it. And I'm doing a research report around the data center space.
What was that,
Digital Realty. They're in San Jose and also San Francisco. The #1 data center, real estate investment trust. Okay, if anybody is interested in working with me on that project, that would be cool too. Okay. So if you want to, you could swap out, retail, apartments, industrial. Those are the office, industrial, retail, and apartments are the 4 core property sectors. Okay, the emerging sectors are data centers and life science space. Okay, if you want to swap out your memo to do life science or data centers because you're totally into it, that's cool. If not, stick to the 4 core property sectors. Okay, and you're going to do 4 memos on those. Okay, one memo for each sector.
Are you writing memos on what you're doing right now?
I usually write the memos
Is that
as
starting
the
stage?
introduction to the report.
Introduction to the report?
Yeah,
It's
so
like abstract.
he'll get the report, right, it'll look like this. Say this is the report. So here's the physical report that I'm gonna give the client, okay? Usually when I give them the report, I have the memo right here. So when I give them the report, or her, pull it out, they read it, got it.
So by
They look at the abstract and the report, they look at the key highlighted points throughout the report. Then they'll read the report, and then usually I'll have the PowerPoint presentation on the back. And that's the deliverable package that I would deliverable to them, to give me then the second half of my retainer.
So you don't send the memo ahead of time to the client, you give it all at one time?
I could give the memo as a brief, like I did, where's the affordable housing project? Who's got the affordable housing over there? Oh, no, that's not it. The affordable housing development project. Who's got my affordable housing development project?
Was it a folder? Was it like
No, it was the big, thick colored report. It's the Plaza Hotel.
Right there.
It's that one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, so that's like the full presentation. That's not the report, but that's the full presentation. This is the preliminary report that I would send them. And then usually here I would have like an executive summary. And then I would have, this is just the proposal right here. And then there's a full report, that's the full presentation right there. Yeah.
That's like all your PowerPoint slides and
So this is probably 2 weeks into the research.
2 weeks, that's what you.
Yeah, that's not the full report, that's just a brief report. Well, maybe a month or 2.
And how long, like, do you work on that by yourself or you have like 5 guys?
Yeah,
By yourself?
so I'll project manage it. And then I have the students. So I had an architect, I had a finance person, and then I had a public policy, public relations person, and then I had we did community outreach plan, somebody focused on that, somebody did the development, construction, budget, somebody did the operating budget, somebody did the financing mechanism, somebody did architecture, construction, engineering, soil. So we parsed it out. And then we all worked on segments, put it together into a draft, and then refined it until we got to the preliminary and then the final.
And then the project, since you'd be the project manager, you read through everything and make sure it just like kind of like correlates.
Yeah, that it's all formatted, there's no errors in it, and it's beautiful. That's a nice report. I mean,
One of the
and
nicest-
it's gotta look good. That's why these memos here are really important, that you focus on the format, and I'll walk you through the formatting, because if it doesn't look good, nobody's gonna read it.
if
You
the
did all that
formatting's
work,
not right.
oh, I'm so smart, I'm a great analyst, you know, here's my report, well, it's got typos, you have, upper lower cases out of whack, you got your graphs in the margin, you know, the spacing's not laid out, you got graphs on top of text, it's like, nobody's gonna read that stuff.
Oh, that's so
It's like, if you can't format it, then they're not even gonna look at your stuff.
How are you gonna collect perfect data?
No, they're not even gonna look at it. Did you have any more questions?
I don't think
So how close are the two so
You have
basically
probably a lot, right?
you're researching where to put, I don't even know what you're researching.
That project right there, that project right there is, we wanna build an affordable housing community.
In a certain spot, in the most profitable
In
spot.
this, no, not necessarily, they hired us to see if it was profitable.
Okay, so how close are the, oh, they hired.
They hired us, we
You
went to
held this
them,
particular spot?
we went to the developer, we could have been the developer. Where we say, hey, there is a 1909, you know, single room occupancy hotel on the corner of Howard and 8th Street in San Francisco. It's totally underutilized, it's completely obsolete, physically deteriorated, it's in a bad location. What we wanna do is we wanna buy that property, tear down the building, and build a new building, and build an affordable housing community there. Is it feasible? Does the economics make sense,
out.
and would the community accept it?
Okay,
So that's what we did, so they hired us to basically do the research, to check to see if the project was feasible.
Are you still doing that now? Or?
That project's already been built.
Oh, okay.
That project,
But so you're on the beginning stages of the.
yeah, we did the feasibility analysis
of
to
like-
see if the project was feasible. So we did the economics behind the project,
that was that plaza.
yeah, so we,
What's your current one?
The the two that you're currently working on. What stage are you
That's
in?
it.
oh, the other two projects?
Yeah, the life
So
center.
that one, there's my client already has a company doing basically the rework of life science space.
Mhm.
And what I'm doing is the market research to basically be a proof of concept, that there is enough demand and not enough supply of life science space in the Bay Area.
Okay.
So I'm doing a market research report.
So that's a little bit different than what this is.
That is a feasibility study, looking at a specific site, determining the highest and best use.
So that's past that stage. So the stage that you're
Yeah, that's
on,
an individual project, and then this other one I'm doing is a market study.
that's
was-
a whole thing. Okay.
It's a market, so I'm looking at the supply and demand
Okay.
for that type of space in that location.
Proving that you need that. Proving that.
Yeah, that
you
there's
don't have
market
enough.
demand,
Yeah.
and there should be
So-
more investment in that type of project development.
How weird was it transitioning to this new style? Because I feel like that's a recent thing, having people fill in lab space rather than build their own labs. Like
It's a new concept.
it's new. So do you have to like remodel the way you're like analyzing everything, or just some things maybe?
Well, what you'll do is a market survey, see who the operators are in the space, what their business models are, how
So you
you,
have to do that.
how you differentiate yourself amongst them, and then what your business model is to attract capital to then invest in building that type of space. Okay?
And yeah, and
That's
now
crazy.
these people that you're going to kind of like get this information from, do
Yeah.
they only give it to you because?
No, I can get it free from CB and Cushman and JLL.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they produce all those research reports, so I basically go out, try to find as much research I can on this area, put it into a Dropbox, basically organize it, sift through it, write the research, cite the reports, and then what I'll do is I will build a model that basically ranks geographic areas as the, what are the best top
Most
10
demand.
markets for this type of product. And I'll do that for the digital centers, and I'll do that for the lab space. So this is applied economics. Your course is called Urban Economic Analysis. This is applications in applied urban economic analysis.
That's like the next step. So like this is like
Yeah, this class should be taught as like just a theory class, but I can't teach theory, I can only teach application. I can only teach you what I know.
yeah.
And I figured you'd rather know what I know than what's coming from the book.
I feel like I'm tired of hearing all these theories. I feel like I'm more of like a hands-on learner.
Well, this-
I feel like that's
this
the best
book-
part of learning is the
This book is good because it's basically the technological applications around the analysis. So this is a really good book. Where's the other one?
I
Where's
feel
that
like
other book?
that's why I feel like some kids do better in
Who's got the, oh, that one. This one's all theory. This book here is just urban economic theory, written by a PhD economist. Okay, it's good stuff, it's theory, and all of us economists have studied this stuff. And the question is, how do you change this into all the stuff that I just handed you? Right? How do you transition from theoretical application into practical application? That's the key. Either you go become a PhD urban economist at the university and produce those kind of books, or you go and become a director of research or executive vice president of research and analytics, or a real estate and financial economist, or whatever your title is, and you turn all this stuff into application, and everything that I gave you tonight was all the stuff I produced over 25 years as an applied economist. Okay, am I losing you guys yet? Is it chocolate time?
Yes.
There's a box of chocolates behind you.
this is most engaging.
How are we doing on time?
It's 8:19.
How much time do we have? 30? Because I just wanted to hit on a bunch of stuff.
Howard.
Okay. Get howitzer approach.
I feel like I've been sitting here, but I still have so much more that I need to take.
Yeah, by the end of the semester, you'll know all this stuff. I'm just giving it to you, and then we'll go over and over and over and over again. So don't worry, most people say, Professor Suze is the worst professor I ever had because he doesn't explain anything, he talks over our head and didn't understand anything he said. Once you start doing the readings, you start looking through this stuff, going through the lectures, it's gonna come. So you just-
That's what I got in.
Okay? What else? Oh, let's finish this. Okay, let's keep going through this. So we understand occupancy rates, vacancy rates, new construction, net absorption,
And we're
positive
gonna,
absorption, negative absorption.
we're gonna apply these into our research reports and these
Yeah.
rates. Okay.
Because in those market research reports, they talk about net absorption, they talk about vacancies, occupancy rates, rental growth rates, all that stuff. So you gotta understand that if you,
Where those numbers come from, kind of.
yeah, what they're talking about,
Okay.
okay? All right, so let's kind of keep going through this. So, real estate economics, here we go. What drives commercial real estate values? Industrial production, GDP, population, employment, households, income. Those are all the demand factors. Once the prices go above the cost of construction, you're gonna get new construction. You're gonna get supply. New construction, net absorption, occupancy, vacancy rates are gonna drive asking and effective rents. Asking rents is what the landlord is asking. Effective rents is when you take out any free rent, okay? So you're renting at a discount. So there's a asking rent and effective rent, okay? And then the rental income, I'll go through the income statement. You got the, yes.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
said effective rent
Yeah.
is the rents that aren't at
So you got asking rents,
yeah,
right?
mm-hmm,
And then they give you some free rent, like a couple months of free.
okay,
So whatever that monthly amount of free rent is, you subtract it
okay,
to get the effective rent. Okay, so the effective rent takes out any, what are called concessions. And in most cases, to induce tenants to lease your space, they will give you a rent concession, such as free rent. And then if asking and effective rents are going up, the net operating income is going up. So I got my rental income, take out my vacancy rate, take out any concessions, my effective rental income, take out my expenses, I got net operating income. Okay, that's what we focus on. All right. And then you also have mortgage interest rates and stuff like that. And I'll walk you through an income statement and get into the financial economics, so you understand how investors look at property. That's another lecture. And then real estate, occupancy, vacancy rates, rental rates, prices go in cycles. Okay, and they track the business cycle. So occupancy rates will go up or go down, or vacancy rates will go up, rental rates will go down, net absorption will turn negative, prices will go down in recessions. In boom periods and growth periods, occupancy rates go up, rental rates go up, valuations go up. So the real estate cycle is highly correlated to the business cycle. Are we in a recession? 21 to 23, but are we in one now? No? So our occupancy rate's gonna stay above the structural?
Yes.
Yep. Our rental rate's gonna continue to grow above the local inflation rate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is net absorption gonna continue to be positive? Our value's gonna continue to go up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then what about when we fall into a recession? What's gonna happen to net absorption?
Goes down.
It's gonna go negative. What about occupancy rates? Gonna go down. What about rental rates? Down. What about values? Down. Okay, so you need to learn that logic, okay, because we go in cycles.
It's just a pattern.
It's a cyclical pattern around the business cycle. So if you know where we are in the business cycle and where we're going, you can forecast where the real estate cycle is gonna go, and you can make investment decisions, yes.
Are we gonna get into base year leases?
I can talk about different types of leases, where you have base rent plus CPI adjustments, or
Well, just
percentage
like
rates.
how your base year lease determines like the cost of the, I don't know, like lights, like the energy, when you bill the tenants.
You mean the pass-throughs? So I got a full service rent,
Yeah,
right, at least full service.
uh-huh,
The landlord pays for almost everything, but they pass through some of the expenses to me as the tenant.
yeah,
So you're gonna have some base, and then there's gonna be a pass-through component, because the landlord doesn't wanna pay for everything.
yeah, but it's like if you have a cheaper, or if you have a older base year lease, then
Yes.
your cost isn't as high.
Are you talking from the tenant standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then at some point in time, your lease is gonna expire.
And then you can get a new base year lease, which
Yeah, you're gonna have
is
to
what the
roll it,
owners want,
you're
right?
either gonna have to renegotiate
Yeah,
what the landlord wants you to pay,
yeah,
or you're gonna have to move out.
yeah.
Okay, you can have a renewal
Mhm.
option at the end of your lease term, but if the landlord decides to double your rent, you can't pay, you're out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can talk about lease,
Cause I did that a lot with my, in
well, maybe you
commercial
should present that.
property management.
If you guys have topics that you want to present on, that's fine. Okay, so market fundamental analysis, demand, absorption, okay, competition for space, vacancy loss factors. Vacancy rates are also called vacancy loss factors.
Vacancy rates or vacancy loss factor.
Yeah, and part of the vacancy loss factor, do tenants always pay their rent?
No.
No. Do they ever default on their rent?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you collecting any money?
Nope.
No? Are you gonna take that into consideration?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to put that in. So your total vacancy loss factor is your vacant, available, and what you could lose or you're gonna lose in credit default risk. And the credits, the tenant's actually defaulting, you know, on the leases, and you gotta take that into consideration. Unless they're, you know, credited tenants, you know, AAA, AA,
And then
triple A, double A, triple B, double BB, rated tenants,
How do you
high credit.
How do you find those rates for people?
Usually if they're publicly traded companies, they've issued bonds, and the bonds are rated by the rating agencies. So you can do it that way too. Investment market fundamentals, mortgage rates, debt coverage, loan-to-value ratios. Again, I would read all this stuff, so at least you're familiar with it, and I can go through it a little bit more. Space market and technical analysis, capital market. Then there's investment portfolio strategies. What kind of investor are you? Are you risky, risk neutral, risk averse, contrarian? You like to wait until the market's totally pummeled and then come in and scoop up properties at deep, deep discounts? Do you just invest in office, industrial, retail, apartments, hotels? So are you specific to different, just special sectors? Do you just invest in Class A, high quality building, Class B, Class C, Class D? Do you invest in Class D, Class C, crappy buildings? You go in, remodel, redevelop, reposition them, and bring them up into the B category and make the arbitrage, sell it off or keep it, one of the two. Do you just invest in neighborhoods, submarkets, cities, counties, metro areas, states, regions? You might have a geographic focus. And then do you invest in core properties? Class A, downtown, San Francisco office buildings, built after 1980, and we go in and we do a value add strategy, remodel it, reposition it, re-tenant it, remarket it, and we increase the value we bought it. Bought it at $250 a square foot and sold it for $750. Or maybe we bought it at $500 and sold it for $750 after we were done redoing the whole building. People do that all the time. That's core is the best. You know, stabilized, it's already in place, you don't have to do anything to it, just collect your checks. Opportunistic is, there's something wrong with it, you're going in and you're gonna fix it. And either flip it or keep it. And then value add is, this building is completely physically deteriorated, functionally obsolete. We're gonna go in and redevelop it or scrape it and redevelop it and bring the new building and the new use to its highest and best use. That's gonna be the value add strategy. And again, that's the most risky. Diversification. Some investors want diversification. Different property sectors, property types, geographic areas, they want to spread the risk. Others just want to be concentrated. Life science space in Silicon Valley, that's very focused. Data centers, edge computing on-site near power plants, very specific concentration strategy. And then at the end of the day, once you've picked the strategy, and if you have the expertise or bring in the expertise, it's all an execution. Doing all the underwriting, raising the capital, buying the property or building the property, getting it up and running, and then either keeping it or flipping it. So execution at the end of the day, right? It's just like running a tech company. It's all execution at the end of the day. Property and portfolio management, it's all in the income statement. What you're driving, lower expenses, raise rents, raise income, raise value. And then the other is the balance sheet. Okay, it's your, what's the debt that I'm using to finance the acquisition of the property? Am I matching the liability structure to the asset structure? And I can talk later about financing structures and how, you know, real estate is financed. Expenses and revenue management. Again, you can use common size analysis, trend analysis. This is all you accounting people, this is all, you know. And then leasing strategies. Diversifying your lease terms. You don't want all your leases coming due at one time, right? So you spread them out. If I know that the recession is gonna hit between 2021 and 23, what is today? What year are we in? 2020. We know that the recession's gonna hit 21 and 23. So our rent's gonna be going up or down?
Down.
Down, okay. So do I want all my leases to be turning in between 2021 and 23?
No.
No. So I should be writing
Before.
leases that expire when?
After.
Exactly. So you're gonna write leases that will expire in 2024, maybe 25. So you're gonna be writing 5, maybe 7-year leases, maybe 10-year leases. We're at the peak of the market now, right? We're at the peak of the market now. We know rents are gonna go down over the next 3 years, so why don't I start writing my 5, 7, and 10-year leases so that they expire in the next recovery and the peak of the next cycle. So that's your lease diversification strategy. Market and tenant selection. I don't want all tech companies in my building. I want to have some food processors, manufacturing, transportation. I want a diversified base of tenants in different sectors. So if the economy goes down and wipes out one sector, my whole building doesn't go vacant. Okay? So there's going to be sector strategies, and then what companies are probably going to go bankrupt first? Small companies or large companies?
The other one.
Small companies. So if I'm scared that we're going into a recession, what companies are going to go bankrupt first? Small or big? Small. So what I want to do is probably at some point start getting rid of the small companies and start putting in medium to large companies, so that when the recession hits, those companies won't default on their leases. So that's a tenant credit strategy. Okay, and then valuation techniques. How am I doing on time? 20 minutes? There's the cost approach. So I got a building, let's say 50,000 square feet. It's gonna cost me, $1,000 a square foot to replace it. Okay, that's the cost approach. How much would it cost for me to replace that building today at the current construction costs? Okay, that's one method. The residual land approach, I'll talk about that later. That's basically the, what?
It's worth at the end.
Well, it's really the present value of the cash flows. So it's your present value, okay, of the cash flows, minus your construction costs. So the cost of the building, it's gonna leave you the value of the land. So it's I'll put the math up a little bit later. And then the sales comparable approach. I got 3 buildings that just sold, just like mine, in the same submarket, same year, same square footage, same tenant profile. I need to know how much my building's worth. And it's a 50,000 square foot building. The 3 buildings that just sold over the last 6 months, one sold at $500 a square foot, the other sold at $750 a square foot, the other sold at $650 a square foot. I'll just take the average of the two, $650,000 a square foot, times the square footage of my building, that's the value of my building. So I'm using the
That's a
sales
quick way?
comparable approach, yeah. So you gotta go find the comparables.
Yeah.
Deals that have actually sold, make any adjustments and come up with the price per square foot for those. And then do maybe a sensitivity or an average, to take that price per square foot, apply it to your building, that's your value.
An estimate.
An estimate, yeah, so you got the cost approach, you got the sales comparable approach, then you got the income capitalization approach. So I got 3 buildings that sold. I know their NOI, I know the value of the building. Hold on. This is comp A. I know the cap rate. This is called the cap rate. Your net operating income divided by the sales price. It's gonna give me the cap rate. Capitalization rate. Cap rate, so it's saying capitalization is called the cap rate. This is also the income return. So this, I found one building that sold. The cap rate was 10%. Found another building that just sold. The cap rate was 9%. I found another building that sold. The cap rate was 8%. These are comparables. They're called comparables or comparable properties. My building is the subject property. Should I know what the NOI is for my building? Should I know the net operating income for my building? Yeah. So I know the NOI. What would be the cap rate that I would apply to my building?
9.
809. Give me the value. So I go into the marketplace, I look at the cap rates in which these buildings were sold. I apply the cap rate to my NOI to get the value of my building using the income capitalization approach. We're almost done. The last one is the present value. Right? You guys are all finance majors, right? We're gonna do some of these. Discounted cash flow. DCF. This is how we talk. Discounted cash flow, our goal is to calculate the present value, or the PV. PV is going to be the sum of the net operating income, let's say going out 5 years, discount it back, 1 plus I, discount factor plus some terminal value, the value in which I'm going to sell the property for at the end of the holding period.
Okie dokie.
This is all for discounted cash flow?
Yep. Yeah, and I'll walk you through these. We'll do like 3 of them. We'll do Salesforce Tower, we'll do Mission Bay. I'll walk you through a bunch of examples of how to do the discounted cash flow. This is the present value calculation. Okay. So I can discount the cash flows for the property to come up with the present value. That's the second of the income approaches. There's 2 income approaches: income capitalization and discounted cash flow. So how many methods of valuation do we have?
4.
Cost approach, sales comp, income capitalization, and DCF. Okay, all right. And then
What were the names of those?
the valuation methods.
Valuation.
First is the cost approach, sales comparable approach, and then there's 2 income approaches: the income capitalization approach and the discounted cash flow. So there's 4. Institutional investors use this one a lot, and a lot of the other investors use this one in conjunction with the sales comparable to get the cap rates, and then they use sales comparable. They will use the cost approach. If I see a building, right, and I do the cost approach, and the building is worth $500 a square foot, but I can buy it for $250 a square foot, am I gonna buy it? Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it because I can buy it for less than the cost of construction. Yeah, totally. If I come up with a value and the sales price is less than the present value, am I gonna buy it? Yeah. If I got a building and I use the income capitalization approach and the sales price is less than the valuation, am I gonna buy it? Yeah. If I do sales comparable approach and buildings are selling for $500 a square foot, but I can buy it at $250, am I gonna buy it? Yeah. That's underwriting. That's capital budgeting. That's investment decision making. Okay. And then net present value, internal rate of return, cash on cash return. So I got my gross potential rental income, take out my vacancy, take out my expenses, I get my net operating income, right? But if I take out my mortgage payment, my debt service, I'm gonna get the cash, okay, to the equity investor. After I take out the mortgage payment from the net operating income, I'm gonna get the cash to the equity investor. And I divide that by the money that I put in, that's gonna be my cash on cash return. That's my return on equity. Corporate finance is return on equity. In real estate, we say cash on cash. Okay? All right. And then lastly, taxes. Do you guys love taxes? I love taxes. Sales taxes, income taxes, assessment taxes, transfer taxes, double taxation. I love all that stuff. Okay? So if I'm an investor and I'm getting rental income, and it comes to me through my LLC as a payout, I'm gonna have to pay income taxes on it. Right, the distribution to me as an investor, I'm gonna pay income tax. Okay? If I sell the property, if I buy the property for $1 million, I sell it for $2 million, I got $1 million gain, I'm gonna have to pay capital gains on that, taxes on that. Okay? Are you guys having fun yet?
Yeah.
Okay, depreciation. Okay, I buy a building, commercial building, I can depreciate it over 39 years. Okay,
And depreciation in a way for you is kind of like money.
it's cash in your pocket, but the problem is that when you bought the building, this is your cost basis, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, and the building appreciates like that. This is your capital gains. We'll talk about this too. That's like 20% plus Obama tax. That's like 22, right? There's something like that in that fund. Okay. And then this one, since you were taking depreciation, you zeroed out your basis over the 30 years, so you got to pay recapture. Okay, and recapture is around 25. What are we at now? 47.
Yeah.
And then you got a transfer tax of 10, so you're at 57%.
Dang, your money goes
Is
to
that
the
fun?
trainer.
Do you wanna sell the building?
No.
No, but you have to, because you run out of depreciation. So all the money that you're getting, now your taxes are going through the roof. So what you end up doing is you have to do a 1031 exchange. Okay? So there's the 1031 exchange.
It's like a form.
Huh?
It's like a form.
No, what you do is you roll all the proceeds from the building along with some equity into another building of higher value, more value. So you reestablish your depreciable basis
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and you defer. You're deferring the tax. Every time you do a 1031 exchange, you're deferring. And then the key to the whole thing is what you do is you roll it into a irrevocable trust and die.
And die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you give it to, your kids get the property at a stepped up basis, they sell it tax-free, and they get all the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Or you throw it into
So
a,
you just have to make sure you're doing that consistently.
yeah, or what you do is you throw it into a charitable remainder trust or some other type of trust or tax structures to be able to defer the gain on it. So the 1031 exchange is huge. And this walks you through, you know, the exchange process. And you can also exchange in oil and gas, leasehold interest, tenants and commons, Delaware statutory trusts, you can do deferred sales trusts, you can do enterprise zones now, and some of that stuff. And then lastly, you know, here are all the organizations, here are the professional designations, here are all the data providers. Here's all the economic and demographic sources. Here are the books. A lot of these have already been updated. And then a little bit about myself. So that's basically your commercial real estate primer. I'm sore. I'm done. So give me, take what you didn't get and give me back my journals, my reports. I'll take those back and I'll give them back to you again next week. Yeah. Read through this, and we'll go over that. Make sure you staple the article to the back of that, okay? make sure you read the cycle analysis. I'll go through some supply-demand analysis next week. You keep that, okay, and we'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
Take a look at the office memo, read the national office report, read the San Francisco office report. If you wanna do industrial, print out the industrial national, print out San Jose.
You said we could do data centers potentially?
You want to do data centers, yeah, do the national report, and then go find a local market to, and then start reading on these two. Yeah.
What's due next week? What's due next week?
And just keep reading,
Okay.
just read all that stuff, read everything we can, do as much research as possible, read and memorize the primer, I need the article in the back of that. And then we'll go over that,
You want it printed?
yeah, and then staple it to the back.
Okay.
Do we turn it in tonight or?
No, just keep it
Oh.
for now, and then, if you want, you can do another one, if you want to.
Yeah.
Another, start the research process,
Funsies.
read everything that I'm giving you. You can take pictures of that. You can take it home, but you gotta bring it back. Okay, you guys should be taking pictures of these, of the reports. Okay.